Good afternoon. We are back with another season-long preview. Today we have college football, Power 5, and if you don't know what the Power 5 is, that is the good schools, the schools that you probably are familiar with. The ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, the Pac-12, and the SEC. Obviously, there's many other schools, Group of 5. I'll probably be doing two shows, but today I'm just going to be highlighting the big schools, the Power 5. In this show, I'm going to go through each Power 5 conference, and then from there, give my predictions, not on every single team, on 5 to 6 teams per conference. Then decide who I like to win that conference, and then go over any futures bets I have made. So yeah, let's not waste any time. Let's get right into the ACC. So talking about the ACC last year, it was obviously there's a Coastal and Atlantic division. Last year in the Atlantic division, it was won by who else but the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, followed by NC State, Clemson, Louisville, Florida State, Syracuse, and then Boston College. And then on the other side, Pittsburgh won it over Miami, Virginia Tech, Virginia, UNC, Georgia Tech, and Duke. Pitt played Wake in the final. Pitt got it done, led by Kenny Pickett. That was an awesome game, awesome season for Pitt. I would say the most disappointing team of last season, people might say Clemson, but it was probably North Carolina. All the hype they had last season, Sam Howell, Mac Brown, the offense, and they finished third to last in their sub-conference. So do I think North Carolina will be better than last year? I mean, I would hope so. They were such a problem, like defensively and offensive line last year, even though they don't have Howell. Drake May is going to be a stud for them this year. But we'll see. So let's get into the team by team. Clemson was a 10-3 last year, and it was a down season. 10-3 was a down season for Clemson, and then that's what you expect. Dabo Swinney, like that's what you expect at Clemson now. National championship every year, like that's what they're looking for. They took a major step back last year offensively. Is DJ the guy? Doesn't seem like it. So DJ's there again. Everyone is back on the offense for the most part, except for Justin Ross. I expect them to take some steps forward, but what we saw in their opening game wasn't really pretty. They kind of turned it on late, but it wasn't pretty. So are we going to get more of the same from Clemson? I think they're going to take some steps forward offensively, but defensively they are an absolute unit. If it wasn't for Georgia, they probably were the best defense last year, like talent-wise. A lot of the guys are back on D. I think it's all on the offense this year. If they can just dial it in on just get the ball moving. They don't have to be the Deshaun Watson, the Trevor Lawrence type Clemson offenses. They just have to be better than average, and because that defense is just so damn good, they'll limit college football offenses to like under 21 points, which is hard to do. So I like Clemson to take some steps forward. Do I think they win this year? We'll get there. So NC State, another team that I'm going to talk about, they were 9-3 last year. This is the highest they've ever had expectation-wise on a season for the NC State. They started off with not a heartbreaker. It almost was a heartbreaking loss to East Carolina in game 1, but their kicker ended up missing a field goal late. They got by East Carolina. That always happens with these teams that have such high expectations, barely come out week 1. We saw with North Carolina last year losing to Virginia Tech. They were like 8-point road favorites, something like that. But they got a guy named Devin Leary, quarterback, Jersey guy, as usual, Jersey guy. He's a stud. He is a stud. Extreme upside. They need more on the ground. It was kind of Leary or bust for them last season. It was like, if Leary can't throw for 3+, we're screwed. They need more on the ground. If that can come, they'll have success. Their defense was very underrated, and they were good. They lost a few starters on last year's team, but they should have the depth to keep up. And they don't have to have an elite defense to win this conference or to have a good season. Their offense is that good. Devin Leary is that good to have them success. So the blueprint is there for NC State. The expectations are there for NC State. Will they live up to them? We will see. So this team can be anyone in the ACC for sure. I wouldn't say they could be anyone in the country. They could be anyone in the ACC. Expectations are high in Raleigh. I believe that's where it is. So expect good things from NC State this year. Now we'll talk about my Wake Forest Demon Deacons, or my best friends, Wake Forest Demon Deacons. 11-3 last year, and like they were so good, amazing last year, offensively at least. and they had high expectations heading into this year. So what was it, like a few weeks before the opening season, Sam Hartman out indefinitely. Sam Hartman, if you don't know who that is, their starting quarterback. I think Sam Hartman is going to be an NFL stud. I've never seen anyone operate through the mesh point like Sam Hartman. He's like ride, bang. He is just elite at operating through the mesh point. It's so impressive to watch. I love Sam Hartman. So, okay, out indefinitely to start the season. Week 1 comes around, they play, I think, VMI or something like that. Roll them as they should with a backup quarterback, whatever. I'm just sitting in class. I get a notification. Sam Hartman back next week for whoever they played in week 2. I texted my friend Kyle. Kyle, we're back. Wake is back. Let's go. They returned damn near everyone on offense but Jack Robinson. AJ Perry and Taylor Warren should be studs receivers to catch more of Sam Hartman's passing. Beal Smith was their leading running back last year, but it was kind of like a platoon thing. I think they got 2 to 3 guys back. Whoever's running the ball for Wake will be fine. Their passing attack, that's what the running back, I wouldn't really matter to replace Beal Smith. But Sam Hartman's back. The passing attack is back. We're seeing it already. The O-line is going to be insane, by the way. The O-line is going to be awesome. The defense was objectively horrendous last year. If they weren't forcing turnovers last year, they were getting blown out. They weren't getting blown out because the offense was scoring, but they were giving up a lot of points. So if the defense has to take some steps forward, I don't know if they have the pieces to do that this year, like recruiting wise and returning wise, but they have the offensive upside. Like, I'm not saying they're Oklahoma, but like that's the model. If you get what I'm getting at, like they have to score a lot of points, and they can with this offense with Sam Hartman back. Okay, Miami Hurricanes. Wow, Mario Cristobal, first year at Miami, played there. Miami native, like they were 7-5 last year. It's rare that I talk about the offensive line first, but this offensive line is legit. They are amazing with high upside. I think it was going to be huge for them. Tyler Van Dyke is an absolute stud. It was supposed to be the De'Ara King show last year. Went down. Van Dyke came in, and he was awesome. Now they get Frank Ladson from Clemson. He's going to be an awesome addition with Van Dyke, and I think they're going to be awesome again. I mean, not awesome again. I think they're going to take some big steps forward. Defensively, they are filled with transfers, which is not always a good thing. That it puts upside in play, but it might take them a little bit to get going. And I think they'll be a little bit slow at first. And they were slow at first. I think they're let me look who they played in week 1 or week 2. It was Southern Miss. It was like 10-7 at half or something stupid like that. Ended up winning 30-7. So I'm expecting that. I'm expecting them to be a little slow at the gates and then be there down the end. May make this ACC championship. Finally, I'm going to talk about Pitt. So obviously Pitt won this last year. They won 11-3. They were kind of long shots at the beginning of the season. Kenny Pickett, Jersey guy, taking them to the finals. Now they get Keaton Slovis, stud recruit, Southern California. He may or may not just be more talented than Kenny Pickett. Asterisk. He got a concussion last week. We don't know how long he's out for. Nick Patty, I believe is the backup's name, came in, also got hurt, was limping around. They lost to Tennessee in week 2. The reason I'm doing this now is because I like to get a little bit of an ideas of the teams in the first 2 weeks in the non-con, but now conference play is starting to heat up, so it's a good time to do these conference previews. So they lose also their star wide receiver to USC, I believe, but Wayne and Bartholomew are going to be solid targets for whoever's the quarterback, but if Keaton Slovis isn't the quarterback, they're in trouble. The defensive line was awesome last year, and it will be awesome again. Baldonado, I think, is his name. Defensive end, wears like number 88. Looks like a tight end, but he comes from the D end, and he's a stud. They can beat anyone. They're going to be a tough out all season. So after looking at the ACC's top teams, I think Wake Forest wins this division. I think Wake Forest wins this division over Miami in the final. You can get Wake Forest at 19-1 to win this division, maybe even higher in some spots. So Wake Forest is my pick to win the ACC. Now let's get on to the Big Ten. All right, Big Ten. All right, so Big Ten, we have potentially the national champions. So let's talk about last year first. Michigan won the East over Ohio State, surprisingly. Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State, Penn State, UMD, Rutgers, Indiana rounded out the East. And then the West, Iowa won that division somehow, some way, over Minnesota, Wisconsin, Purdue, Illinois, Nebraska, Northwestern. Purdue was trending, and they just couldn't get it done. I like that team so much with Aiden O'Connell and what's his name? David Bell, I think his name is. Receiver is gone now. But all right, I'll talk about Ohio State this year. 11-2 last season. They had the number one offense in the country, and I expect more. Expect C.J. Stroud to win the Heisman this year. I like that at 3.5 to 1. I think that's a good bet. Our leading receiver is back, and Jackson Smith and Jigba is back, and Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson are gone, obviously. But Marvin Harrison and Emeka Aguba will fill that role. So Jackson Smith and Jigba kind of got banged up in week 1. I don't think it's season altering. I think he'll be back when it matters. He's back. Combine those 3 targets with Stroud. Offensive line still there. Offense, we know what the offense is. I don't have to tell you about this Ohio State offense. The real thing for Ohio State this year is the defense. So if you know anything about college football, you know all Ohio State did was switch between cover 2 and cover 3. And why did they do that? They were more talented than every single team they faced. But when they played those Alabamas, those Clemsons, Georgias, those big teams who were equally as talented, they couldn't do it. They would get picked apart. Now we get Jim Knowles, defensive coordinator from Oklahoma State, one of the best defenses in the country last year, is now at Ohio State. What does this mean? They are finally stunting. They are finally doing different things. Cover 1, cover 3, 4. Linebacker drops into coverage. Linebacker blitzes. DN drops into coverage. They're confusing offenses, and combine that with all the talent. This is what we want to see from Ohio State, who gets so caught up in the pass game, the Ryan Day. Like, this is all we just need to score more. You have to have a defense. You're in the Big Ten. You have to have a defense, but when you're competing with these Alabamas, these Georgias, these elite level teams, you need a defense. And I think this is the year Ohio State has that defense who can do it. So I think that is the outlook on them. That is their path to success. They have it this year. The offense is already amazing. The defense has such a high ceiling. I think they have such a high ceiling. I bet them to win this division at -220 to win 3 units. So I placed a hefty wager on them to win this division. Plus, I expect them to win. I bet that 3 units that I'm expecting to win on them to win the national championship to return 10. So if they win, 13 units. Ohio State, biggest fan. Combine that with Stroud Heisman, another 10 units. This is all Ohio State this year. I love Ohio State this year. All right, Michigan obviously beat Ohio State in the snow last year. Was on a money line, by the way, +7. No big deal. They have a 2-way quarterback situation going on with McCarthy and McNamara. McNamara was the guy last year, but they have some different stuff going on this year. Ronnie Bell is their best pass catcher. He's back this year. No more Hassan Haskins. He's gone. Was a stud at the running back last year. Defense loses Aiden Hutchinson and Ajabo, lose their most of their tackles, but it's weird because they had those studs on the defensive line and they didn't even do much. Look at Aiden Hutchinson's stats. He should have been a high pick, but statistically, nothing crazy. There was better guys statistically across the country. So they're losing a lot of their production on the defensive line, and it didn't even it's not like that defensive line was the best ever. So they're not beating Ohio State this year. I can promise you that. Will they win the East? No, they'll finish second or third in the East. But another team that they're going to be competing with, who I think has a similar ceiling to them, is Penn State. It's high, but it's not Ohio State. Clifford's back, loses Jahan Dotson, Washington Redskin now, already doing big things in Washington. That's huge. It's definitely huge. Defensively, they were not great. They're going to be improved. I just think they're going to be a middle-of-the-pack Big Ten East team. Middle of the pack with some upside. I don't think the Marylands, Rutgers, Indianas of the world are beating them. I think we know who the clear-cut top 3 teams in this division, and it's going to be Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. Michigan State will finish 4th probably. So let's talk about Iowa. Let's go in the West. Iowa. If you've watched any college football this year, is this team a joke offensively? It's the offense last year was scary bad, and they did it all the way to the Big Ten championship. Scary bad. And it's not anything better this year. Their O-line, what you think, Iowa O-line, Tyler Linderbaum, Iowa offensive line, run game, they weren't even good last year. And they're not going to be good this year either. They beat South Dakota State 7-3, scoring a field goal and 2 safeties. South Dakota State, elite FCS team. You want to be competing with these Iowas. You want to be competing for national championship. Not this year, Iowa. I'm sorry. So offense is a joke again. It's the same old Iowa. The defense is going to have to carry an even worse offense. So will they do that all the way to the Big Ten West? Maybe the Big Ten West is kind of a joke. But Wisco is a team that can do it. Wisco 9-4 last year's season. Offense will be improved. Can Graham Mertz take the next step? That is my question mark. Can Graham Mertz take the next step? Elite level recruit, has the talent, but Wisconsin offense is probably not the best spot he should have been in, but that's where he is. So can he take the next step? Defensively, their front seven and D-line will be top in the country, as they usually are. I think they will, especially the D-line, will be awesome to compete with like these elite Ohio State offensive lines. So rest will be replaced. I think it still should be solid. What's the DC's name? Jim Leonard, I think the DC's name is old New York Jet. Has had that Wisconsin defense top tier ever since he got there. So I think they should take the Big Ten West. I think Ohio State gets this done over Wisconsin en route to their national championship. All right, it's time for the Big 12. The Big 12, which is a lot different this year, I would say. Big 12. Look at Kansas, number one in the Big 12 this year because they're winning their own conference. Okay, so Big 12 standing last year, Oklahoma State won the regular season, followed by Baylor. They met in the finals. Baylor won that game. Oklahoma State probably should have won. Oklahoma finished third. Iowa State, Kansas State, W, Texas, LOL, TCU, Texas Tech, Kansas was how it shaped up last year. So Oklahoma 11-2 last year. No more Lincoln Riley. No more Caleb Williams. No more pass targets. Can Dylan Gabriel replace Caleb Williams? Can Dylan Gabriel be what he was before he got hurt at UCF? I don't think he can. I don't think he can be close to Caleb Williams. That kid is a stud. The offensive line, even under Caleb Williams, was really bad this year. Last year, it was kind of like Russell Wilson in Seattle. He was getting chased around. Caleb Williams got it done. I think the offensive line should be a little bit better. The defense is always a problem at Oklahoma. They are year after year, and it's going to be a prototypical Oklahoma offense. Can we outscore teams because the defense won't do much help? They're a talented team for sure, but I think they're going to take a step back. They're probably one of the most talented in the Big 12. I mean, as they should be year after year, but I don't think they're as talented as they were last year, and they didn't even get it done last year. So I don't think Oklahoma is the team to beat this year. Now, Oklahoma State, I'm really high on this year. 12-2 last year, probably should have won it. They got a lot of guys back offensively. Spencer Saunders is back at quarterback, and he is a baller. The X factor for Spencer Saunders, hold on to the ball. Hold on to the ball. You have a fumbling problem. You have a turnover problem. Hold on to the ball. When it's going good for you, it's going great. So when you look at Oklahoma State the past few years, what were they? A defensive, like an old like Alabama led by the defense. And that's switching this year. Their identity is switching from O to D. They have the offensive talent back. The defensive coordinator is gone for Ohio State. Their top 4 tacklers are gone, but that offense is taking a legit step forward, and I think it's going to carry them and turn more into a prototypical Big 12 team. Heavy offense, lesser on defense. We've seen Oklahoma State be that team before in the past decade, but they've kind of switched to defensive recently. I think they take the step forward. I think the offense makes magic happen this year, all the way to the finals of the Big 12 this year. I don't know why I said the finals. No one says it, the Big 12 finals, but you know what I mean. Texas, 5-7 last year. It should be a crime. 5-7 last year. Okay, talent-wise, is as good as anyone, year in, year out. Quinn Ewers is a stud, question mark. He's out a few weeks now. Does Texas win that game against Alabama if Quinn Ewers is in? Probably do. They probably do. Worthy and Whittington are elite wide receivers for Ewers when he gets back to throw to. Bijan Robinson, in my opinion, is the best running back in the country. So I'm just naming the pieces. They have the talent there. And what are they gonna do with it? Like, they have the talent every year, but this is legit talent this year. Defensively, pass rush is the X factor. They're good from linebacker to the secondary. If that pass rush who has talent is there to get to some of these Big 12 offenses, they'll be legit in every single game and could win every single game. Literally almost beat Alabama with a backup quarterback. On to the next team, Baylor, defending champions. They lose a lot on offense. They lose Gary Bohannon. He goes to South Florida. Ty Thornton, RJ Sneed, Drew Estrada. That is like all their production. That is all their production. Was last year a fluke? I don't know. Blake Shapen came in last year and he got it done a different way than Bohannon did. Blake Shapen got it done with his legs rather than Bohannon through the air. But I think last year was a bit of a fluke. Their front seven was good last year and it will be elite. They have a lot of returners coming back this year. Secondary will be a problem, and that's not what you want to have in the Big 12. You need a secondary in the Big 12 because you guys know the Big 12. You're gonna air it out. You're gonna air it out like crazy. So I think Baylor will take a step back this year. They kind of came out of nowhere last year. I think regression is due for them. Dub V 6-7 last year. I want to put them in this because JT Daniels is there. Obviously, JT Daniels, former USC quarterback, former Georgia quarterback. Now he's at West Virginia. And they have one of the best offensive lines in the country. Wide receiving core is solid. Letty Brown is gone, was their leading rusher last year, but him being gone is okay because they didn't really have the passing attack with Jared Dagey last year. Now that JT Daniels is there, that takes a lot of pressure off the running game. Defensively, I see this as a middle of the pack defense. I don't see them with like the Oklahoma State, Iowa State of last year, those really good defenses. They got some transfers, but I just still see this as a middle of the pack defense. The offense is going to have to carry them if they want to contend this year. They lost to Kansas already. I do think that was fluky. They were up by like 14 or 21 in that game at home and lost it. I expect them to compete. I'm not writing them out after that Kansas loss. I personally lost a lot of money in that game. Like, I think that was fluky. So we'll see what West Virginia does down the road, but I really do think that loss was fluky to Kansas. Prediction wise, Oklahoma State over Texas. You can get Oklahoma State around 7-1 and win this division. I think it's worth a little bit of coin. All right. Two more conferences left. We're flying through this as we should. Get to the point. We don't have to talk about little things. A very different looking Pac-12 this year. So last year, the North was won by Oregon somehow, some way. Washington State finished second. Oregon State third. Cal fourth. Washington and Stanford rounded it out. Wait, is this one conference now? It really might be. They might have realigned stuff. But it was North and South last year. Utah won it last year. UCLA, Arizona State, USC, Colorado. USC finished fourth, and then Arizona. Utah won this over Oregon in their second meeting. They kind of ran all over them. They were the class of the Pac-12 last year, like no doubt about it. They kind of contended with Ohio State for a little bit in the Rose Bowl. So the first thing I'm going to talk about this is not what you're going to think. I'm going to talk about Arizona State. I think this team has legit upside. Arizona State finished 8-5 last year, another season under Herm. They lost Jaden Daniels to LSU. They lost Rashad White to the NFL. They lost Ricky Parcell to Florida. That's their starting QB. That's their starting running back. That's their leading receiver. Gone. Now, you're thinking, Jers, dude, they lost all their production. We lost their production. How do you think they have a ceiling? They get Emory Jones, if you know who that is, transfer from Florida. A minor league Cam Newton is what I'll say. I feel like that's a fair take. That's how he plays. He runs, he throws. He's a good player, a legit good college football player. I think he's better than Jaden Daniels. I really do. He hasn't really shown it yet, but I think he is better than Jaden Daniels. They have a few offensive line transfers as well to boost them. Xavier Valade from Wyoming will fill that role of Rashad White. The offense should lead a lot. Lead a lot of things. I think it's going to be a big running-based offense. Emory Jones can do it a lot on the ground. Valade will get it done. The defense was sneaky really good last year. They led the Pac-12 in total defense. The secondary got better. They got Corey Bethley from Hawaii as a stud safety. And the defensive line lost in pieces, but they get Rodney Grayson from Mississippi State. Anytime you're getting an SEC transfer on the defensive line, you're doing good things. So I think Arizona State has legit ceiling potential. Look for them as good underdogs to bet on throughout the season. I don't think they're going to win, but I think they're going to be legit underdogs to cover spreads against good teams in this conference. Now we'll look at USC. 8-4 last season. They had the number one offense in the conference last year, and they got like 10 times better. So you can see where I'm going with this. Why do they get better? Lincoln Riley comes from Oklahoma. Caleb Williams comes from Oklahoma. They get Jordan Addison, Bolitnikov winner from Pittsburgh. Mario Williams from Oklahoma. Brandon Weiss from Colorado. Travis Dye from Oregon. Like, this offense is going to be insane. This is going to be like a ceiling Oklahoma offense. That's like what they are. And the defense feels like Oklahoma. This feels like a vintage like Oklahoma Big 12 team who's number 3 all year, and they just win every game 65-24. Like, they'll give up some points, and they'll give up points to good teams, but they will score a ton of points because this offense is just more talented, bigger, and faster and stronger than everyone they're going to play. So I think they're going to win this conference. USC. Okay, Oregon, 10-4 last year. Bo Nix at quarterback after Anthony Brown played his 5th year from Boston College. Jersey guy. Bo Nix is just not it. I hate to say it, Oregon fans. He's not it. Bo Nix got so much praise in his first ever start in like when he was, what was that, 4 or 5 years ago at Auburn versus Oregon. He had a crazy comeback, and he was like the guy after that. But ever since that moment, he just was not good. And he's ridden that moment until now. And he's just not it. So they lose their top receiver and running back. They get Coda from UCLA and Chapman from Texas A&M. They'll be solid, but I don't think Bo Nix is the guy. Defensively, they are legit. They have arguably the best linebacker duo in the country. I mean, Alabama might have something to say about that, but Justin Flo and Sewell are the best duo, in my opinion. I really think they are. Elite defensive line. The secondary is shaky, which is not what you want in the Pac-12 either. So Oregon, just stop losing to bad teams. Every single year since 2017, Oregon has lost to a team that finishes with a losing record, something like that. They can't do that because like they'll be there with the big teams. Like they'll get a win, but then they just lose to a bad team and they derail their season. You can't do that, Oregon, and I don't think this is the year either because, like I'll say when I'm high on Oregon, I don't think Bo Nix is the leader of man that you want. Utah, 10-4, won this last year. The offensive line should be amazing again. Cam Rising stepped in at quarterback, and he proved he belonged. 2 literally elite tight ends in Keith and Kincaid. Wide receivers are young, but they have a really solid ground game with that offensive line, and the tight ends are elite pass catchers. Defensively, Lloyd and Sewell are gone to NFL. Those are 2 good linebackers that are gone. They get Diabete from Florida, who is a great replacement, but one can't replace 2. Will be solid. Secondary is going to be good. D-line is going to be good. Linebackers are going to be good, but losing those 2 linebackers in the middle is going to be big. Clark Phillips he was a leader of the team last year at safety. He's going to be awesome again. Expect good things from Utah this season. I don't know if they can compete with USC though, is what I'm saying. I don't know if they can. So UCLA, a team that I've loved last season. They brought a lot of guys back last season. They kind of lost them this year. I love Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and they kind of proved my point last year. Under Chip Kelly, they were good, the offense. Kind of a question mark is offensive line, what they were last year. They're going to be good to okay. They're going to be okay to good this year. They're going to be probably middle of the pack. If they can rise up, that will be a lot for them. So I like this UCLA team to be contend with anyone, but they're a bit shaky in some spots. I like the skill positions. They got a bunch of transfers on defense from like group of 5 schools, like North Texas and schools like that, like high-end players, but like, can those guys fill that Power 5 role? That's a question mark. That's what we will have to wait and see. I wouldn't place any UCLA futures because they could easily shit the bed, but I think they have some upside. So my prediction in the Pac-12 is USC to win over Oregon. I was under the assumption that a North winner and a South winner gets in. Maybe it's just the top 2. So if that's not the case, then USC over like Utah. But I think Oregon, even though I don't think they're going to be good, if the North is how it normally is, the North is so bad this year. So it's either doesn't matter. I think USC wins over Utah or Oregon. And finally, the SEC, what we've all been waiting for. The best conference in football. The East and the West. So the East was won by who else but the national champion Georgia Bulldogs last year, followed by Kentucky, Tennessee, Missouri, South Carolina, Florida, then Vanderbilt. Florida finished second to last. The West was won by Bama, followed by Miss, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, Auburn, and LSU. Texas A&M did beat Alabama last year, by the way. All right. This is the best conference in football, so buckle in. UGA. Stetson Bennett is literally just good. Say what you want about Stetson Bennett. He is good. He is a good quarterback. He gets it done when he needs to get it done. McConkey and Mitchell are going to replace Pickens and Burton. Pickens is obviously on the Steelers, and Burton is in Alabama now. So that's some kind of weird that they lose two of their best receivers, one to Alabama. The tight ends on this Georgia team you're going to hear all season long are literally like it's stupid how good these tight ends are. All three of these tight ends could be legit NFL tight ends for the next 10, 15 years. Bowers, Gilbert, and Washington, studs. Remember those names. These Georgia tight ends are elite. McIntosh and Mitchell are the next Georgia running backs. I mean, I can go on a list of Georgia running backs the last 10, 15 years. These are the next two in line. It's just their running back factory. They've been for forever. They're going to be there. Run it back, Georgia. How does this defense replace Trayvon Walker, Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, and Lewis Dean? You're Georgia. You just do. Your national championship, you just do. There's no reason Georgia can't win another national championship. There's no reason they won't be top in the SEC. There's no reason they won't cover a lot of spreads this year. Georgia has the pieces. Georgia has the energy. Georgia has the coach. What am I going to say bad about them? Nothing. I think Georgia has another great season ahead of them. Florida, I'll talk about next. 6-7 last year. They fired their coach. Billy Napier comes in from Louisiana Lafayette, where he knows offense. Should have been Arizona State head coach in 2018, but he went to Lafayette and just won 2 Sun Belt championships, finished top 16 twice, won like 48 games, something stupid like that. 40-something games. So he knows offense. And him combined with Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson has Heisman-level potential at quarterback. They get Montreal Johnson from Lafayette to be the running back, and they're going to be a very run-heavy team. Trevor Etienne and Nay Wright are going to be the three-headed running back trio. Obviously, Trevor Etienne, the brother of Travis. Montreal Johnson should be the leader of that running back, and then literally Richardson too. He runs the ball. Their receivers are not anything crazy. I think it's going to be a very run-heavy team. Fast, speed, out of the gun, that type of team. Defensively, they lose one of their leading linebackers to Utah, but besides that, they're going to be okay. The defensive ends will be solid. They have Brenton Cox. He's one of the scariest looking guys in college football, and Trey Dean. He's one of the best safeties in college football. They should be all right. But besides that, I think they have legit potential to upset someone good. I don't think they're going to win in Napier's first year, but I believe Napier offense is always fun to watch and always has high potential. So let's move on to Tennessee. 7-6 last year, which if as a Tennessee fan under Josh Heupel, you kind of want a bit more, but you know you're rebuilding. Hendon Hooker, what are you going to say bad about Hendon Hooker? He gets it done. He's got it done. And his top target, said Tillman, is back. The offensive line was a bit of a question mark last year. They lost a lot. They gave up a lot of sacks, but a majority of them are back, and they should be improved. And if they can be improved, that's a big X factor on how the offense will do. On an already great offense, I'm not saying their offense was bad. The offense was really good. They're actually one of the best in the SEC last year. Defensively, the defense was always like playing other teams' offenses on their best day, it seemed like, because how high power that Tennessee offense was. But they have returners at all 3 levels, and they should be even better. I think the X factor is how they perform against good teams. They're going to be good. They're going to beat all the bad teams. And if they can get a win against I don't want to say Georgia, but like maybe a Georgia, if they can keep it close even, that's going to be huge for them going forward this year. All right, Bama. It's Bama time. 13-2 last year, 2 losses to Georgia. So Heisman Bryce last year, obviously. 3 out of the 5 offensive linemen are back. Bryce should be even better this year from every standpoint. Bryce should be even better. They got Gibbs from Georgia Tech, a running back. He's not the prototypical Alabama running back. He's small, quick, agility. He's not the prototypical Najee Harris, Mark Ingram type guy, Derrick Henry type guy. They have new wide receivers to fill in the Alabama wide receiver, literally NFL now. Burton from Georgia is going to be good, really good. One of Georgia's top receivers. And Trey Holden, he's going to be the next, I think he's going to be the next Florida Jerry Jeudy type receiver, highlight type guy. So they have it's Alabama. What am I going to say? They don't have the talent. They have the talent. Defensively, this is not a hot take. Will Anderson is the best player in all of college football. Middle linebacker / hybrid / defensive end. Best player in college football. I'm going to quote this. Will Anderson is the best player in college football. Will Anderson is the best player in college football. Best player in college football. They have Dallas Turner and Henry Toe back at linebacker. So them and Oregon have the best linebacker duo / trio in the country. I'll give the slight edge to Oregon, but Will Anderson is the best player in college football. The secondary is going to be elite with Battle, Branch, and Kool-Aid McKinstry. Where's the problem, Alabama? Slow start against Texas in their biggest game in 10 years, maybe. Okay. Alabama will be fine. I think they are the team to beat in the SEC this year. Surprise, surprise. I think they can win the national championship too. All right. Arkansas, 9-4, final team I'll talk about. Once Kendall Briles came in, offensive coordinator, they had that offense rolling. They were an elite offense. Their leading rusher is back, and they led the SEC in rushing in KJ Jefferson, who was also their quarterback. He is a dual threat quarterback. Raheem Sanders will step in and fill the RB1 role, which maybe will take some pressure off of KJ Jefferson running the ball because he proved to be a good passer. They lose Traylon Burks to the Titans, but they get Jaden Hazelwood from Oklahoma. He was a stud at Oklahoma, and that's going to be an elite pass catcher. He's not going to be Traylon Burks, but he'll be able to be more than okay. Now defensively, the offense was really good last year. Defensively, they were weird because they ran so many hybrid sets with 6 defensive backs in because their pass rush was so bad. They were like, if we're in a 4-3, we cannot we have no pass rush. The quarterback's going to find an open receiver eventually. So they're just leaning into this more defensive backs because our pass rush is so bad. Rush 3 to 4, and that's it. Hopefully, maybe one of them gets to him quick enough. But we have 6 defensive backs on the field. We'll run with your athletes. That's a problem when you play elite offensive lines like the Alabamas, the Georgias of the world, who just run the ball down your throat. So that's what I'm thinking about Arkansas this year. I don't think they will. They have a good offense, but I don't think they can compete against the high-level teams. So my prediction is Bama over Georgia, a little rematch of the finals last year, and I think Bama will get it done. So that about wraps it up. Bets I have made are Ohio State to win I think it's safe to lay the -200. Ohio State to win the Big Ten. Let me look real quick. Ohio State to win the Big Ten. Wake to win the ACC at 19-1. Oklahoma State at +650 and USC at +150 to win the Pac-12. All those bets are to win around about 3 units. CJ Stroud, I think, is a good bet at 3-1 to win the Heisman. And I'm all in on Ohio State to win the Natty. So that about does it for the Power 5 conference preview. Should be back soon with another one. If not, you know where to find me, and I will catch you guys next time.